Welcome to the Social Workers radio talk show on WCDB Albany 90.9 FM with co-hosts Dr. Eric Hardiman and Alyssa Lotmore. Here at the Social Workers, we address issues important to our communities with social work students, alumni, and community partners as our guests.
As part of the University at Albany School of Social Welfare, we hope to take social work beyond the classroom and agency settings and directly to the public, because the public is the client. Catch us on air, online, and anytime. Welcome to the Social Worker Radio's talk show. I'm your co-host, Alyssa Lotmore. Dr. Eric Hardiman couldn't be with us today, but we still have a really exciting show. We have alumna guest, Malikah Shaheed. Graduating over 15 years ago from the University at Albany's School of Social Welfare, Malikah sought to explore, experience, and practice all aspects of the social work field. Experiences include in and outpatient clinical practice, chemical dependency, school social work, medical social work, child welfare with home studies, and contracted short-term social work case management, all of which have made Malikah a well-rounded clinician. She is a member of the National Association of Social Workers and Society for Social Work Leadership in Healthcare. With total commitment to the practice and advancement of the field of social work, Malikah plans to keep challenging herself and her colleagues to higher levels to the benefit of social work clients. And Malikah is here today to discuss her new role, which is the NASW Mohawk Valley Division Director. So welcome, Malikah, and congratulations on this new position.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be able to represent and be a representation for all of the fellow social workers in the Mohawk Valley region of New York State.
Well, this isn't your first time on the show. You've been a guest on the Social Workers back in the fall of 2017. And there you discussed your experience in foster care home recruitment and training. So I guess I want to start off with, can you begin with an overview of your work in the social work field prior to this new position? So tell us how you got here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I love social work. I love to talk about social work. I love to go down memory lane and just remember the first day I stepped into Milne Hall School of Social Work at the State University of New York at Albany, getting off the bus, walking into the halls, looking at the wood, and thinking to myself then, when I was asked, oh, well, what's your specialty? And I said, then I have no idea. And I'll say it now, September 30th, 2021. I have no idea. I am a social work generalist, and I love every single aspect. I can practice every aspect, and most aspects and subgroups or populations intersect. So many populations or are dual diagnosed or have multiple facets, and they all blend in together. And so I started off in child welfare, from child welfare, providing clinical services, doing one-on-one individual therapy, nonprofit sector, and just meeting with family and children in their own home environment. That really kind of taught me the ropes. And then from there, I had moved to the Washington, D.C. area. There was a great need for social workers. And so I had linked up with the nonprofit in that region that specialized in child welfare. And specifically, they were looking for what was called a home finder. And they had an expansive grant from the state, and they needed someone because there was a great need to come in and to help families become licensed. And so I said, you know what? This will be a great way to kind of take the knowledge that I have, which is understanding how families function intimately. And that's all different types of families, single families, married families, unmarried families, families that communicate and families that don't communicate that well. But having the intimate knowledge of what I had learned up to that point and understanding how that would work in a role where individuals and families wanted to open up their homes. And so I would go in, I would license the family and ensure that their home was a safe home. And I did that for several years, and I would recruit, train, and license. And I still say that a big chunk of my heart was left in that space. But being that, it's a part of my fiber, it's a part of my social work DNA that I can every day learn more skills and continue to grow so that I can understand our craft of social work. It's boundless. And so from home finding or recruitment, training, and licensing, I did want to, before I left, I had wrote the manual for other social workers. So as they would look to, well, where do I start and how can I be the best home finder and recruitment, I wanted to leave them just a tool that they could open up, read, understand, this is how I get it done. And this is how I can leave an agency in a better place than what it was yesterday. And so
I remember you talked about that in the show, and the passion you could tell in our interview. I remember just about that home finding and how to connect families. And I remember you talked about the manual, and I, like I said, that passion I could tell was right there, was there.
Yes. And I do hope that I get to, put that back in some parts, because, we can only go so many hours a day. But I do want to be able to pick that up in the other so many things that, is going forward. Kind of, I don't know how to, but just going forward, just being able to pick that back up. Yeah.
And so many of the skills you mentioned, you said, you're kind of a generalist. And as so many times when I talk to students, and I'm an advisor as well for some graduate students, so many times they feel like they have to pick that one area. I'm only going to do school social work or medical social work. And you were just discussing how you sort of had that generalist skill set, and you're able to have those skills that can help you in any population that you work with, because there's basic social work skills that you learn and you continue to grow as you're working in different positions, and you take that with you. And it seems like that's what you've done. You've taken those skills into every position that you've went to. And as you've evolved as a social worker, you've had that strong foundation that you can build and continue to build each day to get you to, to make that most of an impact in the position that you're currently in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that full life cycle. Yeah.
So how did we end up now to, you're a representative of the NASW through your role as a division director. And I'm just curious, what inspired you to want to take on this role or to be involved with our national association at this level?
Excellent question. And it came through insight. And part of it, and as we are social workers, we like to look at things from an organic perspective. And I think that, and we like to talk about growth and strength a lot.
Yep.
I don't think we could be on the social workers show and not talk about growth and
Yeah, that is true. That is true. We're always transforming and, becoming our better selves.
Exactly. And so, I have to let that percolate into the conversation, because that is the starting point from how, for me, I was always in the back of the room listening and watching and waiting for my turn. And I always say it was just because of my birth order that, that kind of happened for me in that way. I was just waiting for, the baby boomers to kind of tap me on the shoulder and say, okay, now it's your turn. And it's always funny because I say, well, watching, other generations, the Z and the millennials, I love how, and I tell a lot of people that I meet just anywhere where I'm traveling, whether it's, at work or while I'm walking through the park or, petting a dog or in Walmart, we have to admire different skill sets and strengths of others. And one of the strengths, they have, people have many strengths, but one of the strengths that different groups have, and I always say Generation Z and Generation Millennials, is that they do not wait for permission. They don't wait for what I call the proverbial tap on the shoulder. Okay, here's the baton and now it's your turn, which many individuals were taught to wait for. And so I think that that's a conversation that wasn't in it. It's not being had with particular my generation. And I noticed that for myself, I was literally waiting for someone to give me the permission to say, okay, now it's your turn. Now you can take a leadership role. Now you know enough. And I realized one day when I was listening to a lecture, watching a young lady who I think had just graduated last year, she had this huge online audience, and she considered herself an expert in the topic. And through her strengths, I realized that I too, after many, many years of direct care practice and completing psychosocials in many different environments, whether that was inpatient, outpatient, the psychiatric unit, in the acute care setting, in the residential setting, or in my own office. I realized then that I was the expert and that I was waiting for permission from someone that wasn't going to come and say, now it's your turn. And so as the ballots came out, and I was reading one day and I said, wow, this would be an excellent time to reintroduce who I am, reintroduce myself to my community, and be a part of where we would like to be, the Mohawk Valley would like to be, as well as the state of New York. Where would we like to be in terms of our profession and craft? And I felt like I had a voice, and I wanted to just be on the ballot.
No, I love it. And one of the things you said something that really resonated with me was so many times when I would talk to students about, or even alums to come on the show, and they're like, well, I'm not an expert yet. And I was like, you have years of experience. You have had supervision. You've been working in this field. You know a lot. And expertise is one of those things that it doesn't mean you know everything about everything, but you know about your topic. And it creeps up on you over time as you have those hours day in and day out of doing your job and having supervision and going to trainings. You begin to become an expert in your area. And I always like, so many times I'm trying to have guests come on the show who are doing great work and they're doing, amazing things in their position. They're like, oh, but shouldn't somebody else come on who might know a little bit more? And I'm like, you don't discredit yourself. You know a lot.
Yeah.
So I love how you said that, because one of the things that we talk about on the social workers when I have guests come on, especially, alumni or community members who are doing amazing things. And it's that, well, do I know enough? So I love how you said that, you had to inspire yourself to say, yes, I do know what I'm talking about in these areas. I have that experience and I am an expert in my own way to be able to talk about this and share and have that leadership position. So yay, that's a perfect thing for the social workers.
Thank you. And I didn't come to that conclusion lightly at all. So
I'm glad you did. Now, for those who might be unfamiliar, can you give a brief overview about what the NASW is and what are the benefits to this organization, not only to social work professionals like ourselves, but also members of the general community? Because the NASW does things that impact us all, and through other advocacy and things like that. So can you give us a little overview?
Absolutely. So the National Association of Social Workers is a professional organization of social work in the United States. We have a lot of members. There are 600,000 people who identify themselves as a human service worker or, some type of social work, whether they're clinical, medical. So we have a lot of individuals and professionals in the United States. And so we're a professional organization. We are membership bound. And once you join the national level, you can join the state level. At that point, there's lots of different benefits. You could do get your ethics training. You could do specialty practice, your chapter membership, which one of the big benefits is that your New York State offers the CEUs to all the members. So
which is definitely a benefit, because we need that to keep for those listeners who aren't familiar with it's the continuing education program. And as social workers, we need those to renew our license. So that is a benefit when they're free or on reduced cost. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So when you look at yourself now as the Mohawk Valley Division Director, what do you hope to bring to that position? You shared so much of your expertise, and what's your vision for yourself in that role?
So traditionally, we are considered rural social work just based on the fact that we're small. But very, very powerful. I know that may sound like a cliche, but we are powerful in the fact that, we're a hidden gem of the state. We have a large hospital system that's building and growing. We have many social workers who are practicing there. And even though they're right in the comfort of their home, and that goes out to the work that's going on behind the scenes, that we have social workers who are now able to be in the rural part of the state, however, providing mental health and or some type of service to other people in other states.
Yes.
And so that again goes to the work and the dedication that's going on behind the scenes of pushing our rights with getting reimbursed so that we can provide those services, keeping up with legislation so that they don't forget to add us when it's time to be added to insurance boards. Like, hey, we're out here, we're providing those services. Don't forget to add us. So it's all of that work that's going on behind the scenes that we at the we are doing, and it takes all of our voices. But one of the things that we'll be focusing on in the Mohawk Valley National Association of Social Work in our region is just, I want to continue to emphasize that we are small, but we're very powerful. And as a rural division, it's important that we stay in front of, I call it social work without borders. We have to stay in front of that because we benefit from that the most.
No, and I like how you said you're advocating for more providers and reimbursement and things like that that affect the social work profession. But the more social workers and people you have practicing means the people in the community are also benefiting. So that's one thing that I said when the NASW is advocating and there's so many voices coming together, it's not only helping the profession of social work, but it's also helping all of the community members who need that social work aspect. So that's especially in rural areas. So that's a really, really exciting thing to hear that, you're focused on bringing that during your term.
Absolutely. And just, I want to ensure that others understand that CEUs through the state's National Association of Social Work, if you are a member, we can take advantage of those. And so I want to take this time to invite others to specifically the Mohawk Valley Zoom meeting, which will be Saturday, October 9th. Times will be posted and it will be sent out in email directly to those who reside in the Mohawk Valley. And so what I'm looking to do is develop a steering committee, and at which time we will decide what are the things that we want to focus on. What are the things that we need as a smaller group that's in a rural region, and we will do it on Zoom because we are rural and it takes 45 minutes to an hour to, get anywhere, get to the Walmart, and so we'll do it on Zoom so it's intimate and we can have a precise conversation on what do we want to do? How do we want to grow our chapter? What are our needs, being that we are in a rural community? We're small, but very, very powerful.
And for those who might be listening, since we are on the radio and a podcast, some people might listen at a later date because they can replay the podcast anytime, or they can, sometimes this airs again on WCDB. So what are some ways that individuals can reach out or find out more? Is there a website, whether they want to be involved in the Mohawk chapter or another chapter? How can they find out more and find out contact information?
Absolutely. So for the National Association of Social Work, it's just by going on to your internet and going to socialworkers.org. Once you're on the national site, you can then focus on your state chapter. At that point, that would be the New York State for all of our local social work listeners, and that would be the NASW New York State, NYS. They are on Twitter and
we found they've been on our show before too, so okay. I'm sure individuals can find those, the NASW New York State chapter, and from there they can find the direction or the divisions, so the Mohawk Valley and the other divisions of the chapter.
Yes, absolutely. And then from there, you can find your individual chapter. And so we are looking to grow and looking to really determine, how are we going to meet the needs of our community and be able to, provide the best services clinically, and what are our needs as a rural community. So I'm really looking forward to it. Please join us on Zoom. That's going to be Saturday, October 9th, and the link will be sent directly to your email from the National Association of Social Work, New York State.
And if they're not on that email list, can they go to the NASW New York State website to try to subscribe to be added to that or find out more?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The beauty of the internet. Sometimes you can just easily connect and find the information you need. But that's actually really good, is that it is still via Zoom. You're able to connect with other individuals who might not been able to get there in person. So one of the things, you know, with this pandemic is, I think, more of a accessibility to things like Zoom. It's not as unfamiliar or uncommon as it was pre-pandemic. So it's one of the things that can help connect individuals as well, to have these virtual meetings that are open.
Yes.
So as
Absolutely.
we wrap up, I just want to, I guess, ask, what are some other plans that you have, or some other projects that you're working on that we can expect to maybe hear from you during your term?
Well, we're open to all suggestions, and that is why I'm pushing. And I want those who want to add their opinions in their creativity. That's why, as soon as I possibly could, so next weekend, we're going to be opening this up to, those in Mohawk Valley. Let's put out our visions for everybody of, what do you want, Mohawk Valley Division of Social Work to look like. So I just don't want it to be my vision, but anyone who wants to participate, what does your vision look like? Should we have more in-house CEUs? Should we, get together? Maybe getting together and having group supervision would be beneficial. Many people had problems finding supervision a few years ago. Is that still an issue? So I'm going to wait to hear from the members in the Mohawk Valley before we lay out what the overall vision looks like.
And that's what makes the NASW so awesome, I think, is that it is a member-driven organization, in the sense that they want to hear from the individuals who are members, and how can they best, I should say, meet the needs of the people who are who are the members of the organization. So I really like that you're listening to and asking for individuals to come forward and say, what do you need as a social work professional? What do you need what are you observing in your communities that you think need change or advocacy, and how can we best come together to support? So I'm really excited, and you'll have to come on again, as you move forward in this role, to share what's happening and the new changes, and what the members and yourself are working towards to bring change to the Mohawk Valley.
Absolutely. I will be excited, and with the same energy and love and zest that I've always had for social work. So.
Well, Malikah, I just want to thank you again for coming on the show, not once, but twice now. So it's always great to have a guest return, because it means that we didn't scare them away. So I want to thank you for coming on a second time. First time talking about the foster care home recruitment, which, for those interested, we have all our shows archived, so you can find that episode back in 2017 to hear Malikah talk about that foster care home recruitment and training program and the manual. And now here talking about your new role as the Mohawk Valley Division Director. And I want to congratulate you again for being elected to that position, because that's a really, really exciting place to be, where you are able to have that leadership role and make change. So I'm extremely happy that that young individual who was coming on as an expert inspired you to be like, hey, I can do this too. I'm going to make some change. I don't have to wait for someone to hand me the baton. So I'm very excited for what you're going to be doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So again, we were joined by Malikah Shaheed, who is an alum of the University at Albany School of Social Welfare. She has a very diverse background in many different areas of social work, and is currently at the NASW Mohawk Valley Division Director. Stay tuned for more exciting shows coming up, and Dr. Hardiman will be back again, joining me as my co-host. So stay tuned for more things to come.